It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. I think Chris is actually probably one of the first people I met in Peoria. Just a quick story. I was not arrested, no. He tries to tell people that. It was the second time I met him. No, our kids, shockingly, they have birthdays that are very similar. We have boys that are both 11 that are 3 days apart. They met in daycare and became best friends. And then we got to know each other and then realized that our youngest kids that were in the baby room were a week apart and they became best friends. So we've known Chris and his family for a long time. So excited to have him here today. A little bit about Chris. He is a lifelong Peorian. He's got a 19-year veteran of the Peoria County Sheriff's Office. Graduated from Limestone Community High School. After that, he joined the Air Force. He had deployment in Iraq and service in the Air National Guard. He began with the Peoria County Sheriff's Office in 2004. His career began as a correction officer, but he has worked his way up through the ranks, serving as patrol deputy, lieutenant, director of courthouse security, patrol captain, and as you know, he's currently our new sheriff. In addition to these job titles, Chris has also served as vice president of the police union. He's a member of the Central Illinois Emergency Response Team, FBI, Safe Streets Task Force, and Weapons of Mass Destruction SWAT Team in Illinois. He's previously named Deputy of the Year, in addition to other recognition awarded to him by the Sheriff's Office and the Air Force. Chris is married to his wonderful wife, Leah. They married in 2010, and they have 2 boys, Lane, 11, and Jace, 7, soon to be 8 next week. So please welcome Chris.
Yeah. I like to move around when I talk. Can you guys hear me? I can talk without it, or is it better to talk with it? Talk with it? Okay. Thank you all for having me. Like I said, me and Jason have been friends for a long time. Thank you, Alan, for having me also. Last time I think I spoke here was during the election. This is a lot more fun than traveling around speaking by running for sheriff. So like I said, the sheriff's office has pretty much been my life since I was 21 years old after I got out of the military, 22. So I came back after 4 years after active duty, started as a correction officer, and now I'm your new Peoria County Sheriff, hopefully for a long time. So I'm here today. I'm just going to run down real quick. I know we have a lot going on. You guys have jobs to get back to and an after party apparently. I'm just going to let you know what the Sheriff's Office is about and some of the trends that you're seeing in this crazy world that we're living in right now. So right now, the Sheriff's Office, we have 200 employees. There's a lot to the Sheriff's Office that people don't know that we do. We wear a lot of hats there. Right now, we have 300 detainees that are staying in our fine hotel. A few years ago, it used to be 500. So because of criminal justice reform and all that stuff, we're down to 300. We're kind of hovering there for the last 3 or 4 years. The 300 people that are at our place, they're sitting on some pretty major charges. And one thing we like to try to do is the reentry program that you might have seen, where the ones that I know that are getting out sooner than later, we want to try to work with them, give them job skills, GED, substance abuse, all that stuff. Because even if we're only having 10 or 15 people in those classes, if I can make half of those not come back to our facility, slowly but surely we can make our community a little bit safer. Patrol, obviously those are the deputies you see out on the street. We have a lot of community contracts out there. Obviously the difference between us and Peoria PD patrols the city of Peoria. There's a lot more besides Peoria County than just the city. I have contracts through West Peoria, Dunlap, Princeville. We're in almost every county school out there also as like school resource officers. Dunlap, any school that wants a police officer in there, that's my goal, is to get somebody in there. I want to work with them because I think it's very important these days to have not only having a trained officer in the school, but just having that relationship with the kids. It does go a long way with us, even in the future. We also do the courthouse. We have over 20 judges. I don't see any judges in here. Some judges can be very high maintenance. So our security staff they're very busy. We have a lot of state's attorneys. We have a lot of murder trials going on. people don't really think about the courthouse, but it's a very important part of the sheriff's office because if something goes wrong, it always falls back on me. We do process server. We have 3 process servers. They do thousands of papers a year. You name it, divorce, all kinds of, everyone's getting suing everybody these days, it seems like. So they're very busy. And then we also do evictions, people that don't pay their rent. We're very busy. We're probably 2 months backlogged on evictions from the COVID issues that we're dealing with then. So a lot of moving parts with the sheriff's office. And then we also are part of all these task force that are very important. Crime, as we know, is evolving. It's a lot of technology based. So we have to stay up with that. So we have an individual that's at the Secret Service. He's a deputy, but he's assigned to the Secret Service. He does all the cyber crimes. Counterfeit money is a big thing that you guys don't hear a lot about, but we're constantly dealing with. It affects businesses, obviously, and us. Also, unfortunately, we have a child against crime detective. They investigate just crimes against children. That's all they do. It's a really tough job, but it's necessary. Also, the U.S. Marshals and the ATF. Obviously, we have a huge issue with gun crime in Peoria County, so they're all busy. So a lot going on. We have 180 employees, 70 sworn deputies, 60 correction officers. And as you heard Sheriff Asbell talk about, prior staffing has always been an issue for the last 3 or 4 years. We are getting better, though. It's not perfect, but we really are making some good headway with that. So that's a positive thing coming from the sheriff's office. So now, what's going on in Peoria County? What is not going on in Peoria County, right? I've been up since 1 a.m. because we had 2 officers just shot at this morning. It is just getting ridiculous. And there's numerous reasons. In any city in Illinois or even outside of the nation, they're dealing with the same things we're dealing with right now. And there's a lot of different reasons, factors. It's the last 6 months it's been escalating. We had maybe 1 or 2 carjackings in Peoria County, and we were already sitting at 11 since October. 400 burglaries to motor vehicles. This is all since August of last year. 600 stolen motor vehicles. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, about how that really affects us too, right? And just because it's not a violent crime, it's still a property crime that really affects our delivery services. Catalytic converter thefts is a huge deal right now. When a delivery truck, we're seeing this at any type of delivery services, because they're big catalytic converters and they get a lot of money out of that. That has a ripple effect in our communities. A lot of these catalytic converters are on back order for 4 or 5 months. And now these delivery vans, or even just our personal vehicles, they're sitting at the shop for months, and then it's hampering our services to people. So it is a big deal. I take it very seriously. And then our armed robberies are starting to escalate a little bit too. And these are 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. I mean, Jason have 2 11-year-olds. I can't fathom my 11-year-old doing this, and these kids are doing this because they've been exposed to this since day one. So hijack, I kind of wanted to go over this a little bit, just to kind of give you guys a few tips on exactly what's going on. You don't hear all about what's going on in the local, in Peoria, because the news only covers certain things, but it is almost on a constant weekly basis what we're dealing with. 70% of them occur close to home. I teach a situational awareness class, and a couple examples I give is there was an elderly woman November. She was at a stoplight at Knoxville and McClure on a Saturday morning, minding her own business, waiting for the light to turn green. A guy comes up, opens the door, drags her out, beats her, runs over her, takes her car. The next morning, I'm actually at our dispatch center because it was National Dispatcher Day, and I'm delivering donuts to him. And a guy walks up to me and says, "Hey, I'm here to turn myself in. I just carjacked somebody yesterday." Very nice, polite. He's like, "I can't control myself. When I'm on drugs, I do what I have to do to get that next high," right? He has no idea what happened. He just knew he did something wrong. He was turning himself in. She did nothing wrong, right? She was minding her own business. And that's what we kind of go over on the situational awareness, is how can you not be a victim? If you see somebody walking up to you, make sure your doors are locked. If it's a red light and there's no traffic, what are you going to do? Is it safe? Can you go through that red light? Now, all you guys don't go run red lights and get pulled over and say, "Sheriff Watkins says I can run red lights." There's somebody walking up to me. But I'm just saying, think outside the box, right? You do what you can not to be an easy target and a victim. And sometimes you just can't avoid it, right? You're going to be a victim. So what can you do? If you have an unfortunate occurrence where somebody does take your car while you're in it, can you fight back? You can, but is your car really worth your life? These people are armed, most of them, even though they don't show a weapon, they're usually armed and they're not trained in it. We just had one at Walgreens at Prospect and War Drive a few weeks ago. She was putting her baby in the car. And they came up to her. Luckily, they let her keep the baby and took her car, right? If there's a lot of concealed carry owners, which at first when concealed carry happened in Illinois, we were very worried about it as police officers because we kind of like to be the only ones out there carrying guns. But we found out law-abiding citizens that go through some training, they actually help us. We have had zero problems with concealed carry holders. But if you are one and you get carjacked, do I advise you to defend yourself that way? You really got to weigh those options. Once again, action is really is a lot quicker than reaction. So those guys can do some bad. Once again, it's property. It's not your life. Give your car up. Be a good victim. Be a good witness. Let us know which way they went, what they're wearing. A lot of these people are using a stolen car to commit a crime. So we're dealing with that also. So just letting us know what type of vehicle that is that they pulled up, on you when they do that helps us out tremendously. But once again, we're fighting this with a lot of technology out there. We're putting flock cameras out everywhere through Peoria, and we're solving. We had a homicide down in Casey's on West Peoria about a month ago. We solved that from these cameras because we catch the suspect vehicle that they don't know there's a camera there, and we catch them their license plate on that camera, and then we can build our case from there. So we're using our technology in our benefit also, even though the criminals are using it for their benefit. So as you can see this picture, like I said, your car's not worth your life. You see this, he has his finger on the trigger. This is very common. These kids, they have no idea what they're doing. They just know they have a gun and they're showing it off and they're using it for a crime. If they're grabbing at you and they have a gun in their hand, if your finger's on the trigger, that's going to go off. They might not intend it to go off, but these are kids that have no idea what they're doing. Once again, give them what they want and move on, right? It's not worth your life doing this. We're starting to see people fight back, and we're going to see that. I get it. It's probably not going to go the way you expect it to go. A couple months ago, we had an officer. He woke up and he looked out, and his squad car was out in his driveway, and his door was open. So he looked down his camera in his driveway, and what he saw was overnight, two individuals, one with a crowbar, pried open his squad. This is a marked squad car. Pried open his marked squad car, cut the bolt that was holding his AR-15 in there. They stole that while the other one was standing right in front of the squad car, sitting there with the gun, just waiting for him to come out. That would have turned bad, right? It would have turned that bad for the officer, but it turned bad for that was over across the river. It would have turned bad for the suspect too, but still, once again, this is kind of the stuff that we're dealing with on a daily basis, it seems like. So like I said, just be a good witness if it happens. Stolen cars, as you've seen, I've probably been talking about this in the news quite a bit. They found a hot spot at the airport. Apparently people leave their keys in their cars when they go on vacation because they're worried. They're worried, I know, they're worried that they're gonna lose their keys while they're on vacation, then they get back and they don't have a vehicle. I get the concept, but but these guys have found a gold mine out at the airport. So we're trying to make people aware, don't do that, please. And the thing is, they'll be gone for a week and they have no idea their car's stolen. And these kids are running around in that car for that whole week while they're gone committing crimes. And when we run the plate, it doesn't come back stolen, so we don't know it's stolen. So, and now we're dealing with, before 6 months ago, I would say, lock your car doors. All of our car thefts, almost 98% of our car thefts are people leaving key fobs in their vehicles. And we have teenagers, they forget to leave the key fob in the car or whatever at night when they get home, you don't double check. We get it. It's just everyone's busy in their lives. It happens. 100% get it. But now we come across this trend on TikTok. It's called the Kia Boys. It originated in Milwaukee. Now it's nationwide. They've taught everybody how to break into a car. They'll break the windows, and they have a USB cord. They'll peel your column back, and there's actually a nice little port that they just put the USB cord in there, and your car starts up. So I've been working with Mike Miller. He's been great. He's our local Kia and Hyundai dealer, and these are the two makes and models. As you can see, the 15s and the 21s for Kia and Hyundai, that they're getting stolen. And right now, about 50% of our stolen cars are these models because they're so easy to do. So luckily, there is an upgrade or update that the dealerships are doing, and that covers about half of those models. The other half will be done in July. So if you do have one of those models or know somebody, call Mike Miller and set up an appointment. They'll let you know over the phone if your model qualifies now or you have to wait till July. So now what do? What if your make and model doesn't qualify till July? What do? How can you prevent your car from being stolen? There's two things. What's that? Sell it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's not a bad idea. Some people can't do that, right? So I think the good old fashioned back in the 80s and 90s, the club. Who would have thought? I never thought I'd be talking about the club. But if you can find one, because right now they're a hot commodity, get the club. That you can't drive off with that, right? They can still maybe start it, but they're not going to be able to drive off with it. Also, there's this new phenom called the AirTag, right? That is a thing that was designed a year or two ago for luggage. In case you lost your luggage, you could see on your app where your luggage is at. Well, now we're starting to push that for car owners that maybe own one of these. And it doesn't have to be a Kia or Honda, it could be any car. You know, it's almost like an OnStar system, but like most of us know, you get a year free OnStar, and a lot of people don't renew it, and they are not very cooperative with the police. There was just an article up in Lake County, Illinois, where it wasn't OnStar, it was another brand, I think it was Subaru or something like that. The car actually had a baby in it when it was stolen, and they wouldn't give them the location. It took hours to get the location because they didn't pay for their subscription. So, because they want their money, right? That's what they want. They don't care about getting your car back. So AirTags are a lot cheaper, and they last a very long time. And all it is it stays with your car. Hide it somewhere in your car, and then if your car ever does get stolen, you'll be able to. What it does is it reaches out to phones and tells the location. So it's a cheap security system. It helps us recover the car, because the quicker you get your car back, the quicker you can go about your life. Sometimes it takes a week or two to get these cars recovered at least. So luckily, we're not dealing with something that's happened on the East Coast, is they're stealing cars and they're putting them on cargo ships and shipping them overseas. We're not seeing that here because we're not a port town. Right now, these kids literally are just stealing it to have fun. Half the time, they're not even committing crimes besides the crime of stealing it. They just want to go drive around. And these are 13-year-olds that are driving these cars, which really puts us in a bad position, because now when we see a stolen car, we try to stop it. They never stop for us. We maybe chase it for a little bit until we see it's too dangerous for the community. Depends on the time, day, area, and they know that. So they always run from us. So we try to find that balance, right? I mean, there has to be repercussions for these kids. And a lot of times, especially if they're 16 or under, 17 and under, if they don't have a history of it or they're not on probation, we have to take them back to their parents, which is super frustrating, right? Because 3 hours later, they go back. Because a lot of times, some parents are good, they're trying everything they can, but a lot of parents don't care. And that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing, because they don't have that discipline at home that most of us are instilling in our kids. So, any questions? I think that's about all I had. I figured there'd be some questions. Yes, sir.
Just to your story about the Kia situation. I'm the general manager at WMBD TV, and I know you've talked to Mary a lot.
Yeah.
But we had one of our employees that had a Kia in the parking lot on Friday night.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they came and they hotwired it and did the thing with the USB that you're talking about, and then they pulled it out, and then they ended up pulling it back in. They must have gotten scared, something like that. And then the kid whose car it was didn't have it towed over the weekend, and they came back and actually stole it on Monday night. So I was like, oh man, why didn't you get the thing towed? But to say how bold they truly are. Last night, they were back in the parking lot, apparently looking again. They looked at another Kia that somebody else owns, and there were some undercover Peoria police that had at least conversations with them to get them out of there last night. But they have no real shame. They will come back, even if you've got them on security camera or anything else like we did.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Like I said, it's nationwide. We're not the only ones dealing with this. There's no easy answer. There really isn't. Once again, I'm very big on repercussions. I think there has to be repercussions, even though we know these kids were probably doomed from the start. There still has to be repercussions. They need to spend at least a few days or weeks out in the JDC, the Juvenile Detention Center, and get through the program, and maybe they can get the help through it that way. But the juvenile system's kind of broke a little bit. It really is. I know there's a lot of different views on that, but I'm just living it. We're all living it. Some of you guys have probably been victims. I hope you never are. But it's a big deal. But the good thing is we have a great Peoria chief. He's doing a great job. He's doing everything he can. He's short-staffed. We have great elected officials in Peoria for the most part, right? We're all working together, great coroner. I'm doing everything I can also with my staff. So these things go in waves, I think. I think there is some positivity to this. We'll get through it. But right now, it's going to be probably a tough summer. I mean, I'm just seeing if my first 15 years, I've never had an officer-involved shooting. We never had our guys getting shot at, and I've had 5 different shootings in the last 2 years. This is the sheriff's office, not even talking about Peoria PD. So we're just seeing that violence kind of escalate towards us. Yes, sir.
The newest thing is now they can go by your house at night, scan your remote that's laying in your house,
Yes.
duplicate the remote, and when you leave, it's this big, go on YouTube, you'll explain that. That's a big thing.
So that is a nationwide thing. We haven't seen it too much locally, but it's going to come. So what they do is there's 2 guys. One will go jump in your car if it's unlocked. The other one will go up to your front door. And if your key fob's close, like within 15 feet, they can actually get that signal and start your car and go.
They come back the next day. What
Well,
you should do if you're in the house, you think that's going on. You just put your remote in aluminum foil. They sell on YouTube.
That is-
They sell the holders. When you walk in the house,
There's actually bags. There's bags you can buy that block the signal. We actually do them when we see somebody's cell phone. We try to put, the name's not coming off there.
Faraday.
The Faraday bags, yes,
But
yes.
Your remotes are sending a signal to your cars right now. They can stand right out there in the house. But they don't take it right then. They have to make it remote.
So, yeah, that hasn't hit locally, but it probably is coming. Yes. Yes, sir.
So why is the Kia such a target? Just so happens I drive one.
You did drive one. I think it just took off out there. It was something that they made that they was convenient for them to work on. I think the dealerships to work on by plugging their equipment in, but they didn't realize doing that also triggered this just using a USB charger to start it.
Yeah.
So
Why isn't that the catalytic converter thing, the police, FBI, whatever, why aren't they following up on the junk dealers that are buying them? It seems to be in our city here, it's a major problem. Why aren't they following up on these guys that are stealing them?
it is a huge problem. One issue is we've made a lot of rules and laws locally because we were having problem with local scrap yards. It's a law for them to document a driver's license and usually a plate that whoever they drive up to document that when they come in and bring a Cadillac converter into scrap. We've made a lot of arrests through that. Well, now the criminals got smarter. They've evolved. Now there's these core buyers that travel state to state. They go on Facebook Marketplace. If you type in Cadillac converters on Facebook Marketplace right now, you'll see these random posts of $1 or whatever that just initiates the post. And these guys are out of state because right now there's certain states that don't have any laws or registry rules for Cadillac converters. So right now these guys travel, they collect them from the criminals here. It's all cash exchange. And then they go down to Alabama, Texas, these other states that have not very strong laws to enforce this. So it really needs to be a federal thing. From what I'm hearing, it's getting worked on, especially now since the insurance companies are involved, because the insurance companies obviously have a lot of money and they have a lot of pull. We are actually, you'll probably see a press release here in about a month or two. We're State's Attorney Hughes and me and the Peoria Chief, we're doing a task force now that specifically involves Cadillac converters and hijackings. So we're trying to do everything we can to address it, but there's also the legislative side. But these guys always find a way around it. You can have 100 rules and laws out there. They're going to find a way if it's not consistent nationwide.
I might mention that if you're looking for protection from these people, Fritch Welding on Adams, I think it's on Adams Street, they do a magnificent job of building cages around these catalytic converters, especially on trucks.
Yeah, and some people are etching their VIN numbers in them, which is fine. But if they're selling them to somebody out of state, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're just finding different ways around it.
Well, I've got a question, but as an aside, on the catalytic converter is not the value, it's the rare earth metals that are in the catalytic converter. The catalytic converter is scrap. Once you get those metals out, that's it.
Yeah, there's three metals that are very high value right now.
Platinum is one of them. Palladium, yeah. Recruitment. Hear a lot of stories about police recruitment. How are you on recruitment stuff?
So when I took over in July, we were 20 correction officers down and 10 deputies down. Right now, we are only 2 deputies down, and we're about 9 correction officers down. So we're making some big headway. That's been my main focus since taking office. Every department out there is dealing with this. The correction officer is still a little bit slower, just because I lowered the age to 20. Legally, I can do 18, but I'm not really there yet. I think 20 is a good number. So we're trying to work with ICC. These individuals who are getting their 2-year degrees in law enforcement, let's get them in. We're seeing, I think Peoria PD is still struggling quite a bit on their staffing, but that's been our main focus. We have a great lateral program. We're trying to pay them, but it's not all about pay. Our newer generation, they do not want to work nights, weekends, holidays, which is not favorable it's not great for us because we're 24/7.
Nobody does.
Yeah, I know. So we're trying to throw some money at them as much as we can. But like I said, that's not solving it completely either. But we're heading in a decent position. I mean, the political climate's getting a little bit better for police. We're seeing it. So that helps us out. But yeah, we're still struggling. It's nationwide. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
In the summer.
Dolly, sorry. Good to see you, Dolly.
In the summer, I drive a convertible. I'm not very safe, am I?
You're safe. I mean, it's just be.
Well, you haven't seen me drive.
So we're not safe, is what you're saying. You're okay. I mean, live your lives like it is. Just always say, if you see something, say something, and just be alert. I mean, we're so glued to our phones these days. As soon as we walk out of the business, we're not looking at where our car is and who's between us and the car. I mean, we're all creatures of habit, and we're guilty of that, right? It's just being aware can really go a long way. I always when I do the situational awareness class, I show a picture of a quarterback and what he's looking at. And, quarterback, his first threat's the defensive line, then the linebackers, and then the safeties. His goal is to get a touchdown, right? If he doesn't like what he sees, what does the quarterback do? Call audible. Same with you guys. If you're walking out of Walmart, Target, whatever, and you see something between you and your car you don't like, go back and Target. Give it 5 minutes. Wait till somebody, I know we're busy, but sometimes just doing those little things can keep you from being a victim. It really can.
He said, take your gun. Any other questions?
Well, thank you for having me. You guys know where I'm at.